Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. This is Simon here, coming from a lovely sunny Portugal this afternoon, and I wanted to give an update on the crypto markets, to take a look at Bitcoin and to ask the question, what do I think is going to happen next over the next week, but also over the next 2 to 3 months, with the ETF approval hopefully coming early January, with the Bitcoin halving as well coming after that. And we've also now learned that we're going to have some potential rate cuts next year, with certainly a more dovish tone from Jay Powell at the last Fed meeting. So we have quite a lot to talk about. I also am going to be talking a little bit about what's happening with the dollar, what's happening with stock markets as well, because they're at all-time highs. So let's jump into it. And I will start by saying it has just been a fantastic Q4, really, for all risk assets. We've seen the dollar start to come down. Stock markets around the globe have now hit new all-time highs. And we've seen Bitcoin accelerate to the upside over the last few weeks and months. So if you're long, if you've been bullish, if you've survived the bear market, give yourselves a pat on the back. Make sure you have an extra mince pie or a big slice of turkey over the Christmas season, because you do deserve it. So what we are seeing at the moment is a nice Santa rally, as we usually see towards the last week or two of the year. We just actually look at what Bitcoin's doing. We're still pushing up. So obviously we had this ascending triangle, which we since broke out of, which actually had a bit of a symmetrical triangle here, which we've looked to break out of. It looks like we might be coming back a little bit lower today to retest, but I'm fully expecting that Bitcoin can break on up here. And really the level I'm targeting here is around about this 48 to 50K region. If we just kind of go back to our weekly chart, and if we just look back at the price history over the last few years, we can obviously see that when we're in our bull market, we established this range that we pretty much traded within for the vast majority of the bull market. And we can call this range around about sort of 65,500 down to around about sort of 33,500. And if we just sort of pull that along, we will actually notice that the midpoint of that trading range is coming in just above 48,000. And it's quite interesting to see that obviously during our bear market, we actually fell out the bottom of this range. Obviously, price then did trade underneath this range, and it took us many months up against the bottom of this range to actually then find the momentum to actually push back through. And now we're back in this range. I would expect Bitcoin to have the target of around about 48K as its initial target moving into this range. Maybe there we see a rejection. Maybe we get this pullback that myself and others have been talking about being likely to occur at some point over the next 2 to 3 months. I still think we will get some sort of pullback pre-halving, but this is still the target for me. Right now, there's nothing within the charts that tell me that this target won't be met. And certainly we're still undergoing a period of increased upside momentum, especially with some of these bullish catalysts that we've currently got for Bitcoin, such as the Bitcoin ETF, which now seems inevitable. Conversations are taking place between ETF or prospective ETF providers and the SEC almost daily right now, trying to get this thing over the line before the first final deadline, which I believe is around about maybe the 9th or the 10th of January, which is going to be the ARK ETF. So let's see how that develops. But I am thinking there's over a 90% chance now that the ETF is approved at the start of January. And obviously, you know, January's only 9 days away now, or 10 days away now. So we're getting closer and closer as every day passes. And I do expect prices to be unlikely to correct significantly until that ETF approval is given. And just talking a little bit about what I think we could see from there. I mean, let's say, for example, we do push up into this 48K target. It's very unlikely that markets hit a target and then just collapse or change direction when everybody's expecting them to. So potentially, maybe we see 48k hit. Maybe we then actually trade a little bit above 48k. Maybe we get to the 50 level, and maybe from there it looks like Bitcoin's going to continue to push on. We start getting people talking about all-time highs are coming, how this time is different, and I absolutely love these quotes and these phrases that this time is different. That no, you're wrong, and it's not going to follow the way it did in the past. Let's look at the times that we've actually seen that this time is different crowd actually pipe up and get very vocal about Bitcoin, because we saw it back here when Bitcoin was rallying above the 65,500, when it went up and it hit just shy of 69,000. Everybody was saying this time is different. The 4-year cycle is done. Plan B is saying we're going to 100k. Everybody's saying we're going to 100k. It's a breakout. And what happened? The vast majority of people ended up being wrong, and we ended up getting slammed back down. If Bitcoin had hit 65,000 and just rejected, then people would have been saying double top, it's over, sell your bags. And the majority of people would have actually expected and been a lot more prepared for this sell-off. But the fact we actually whipped past it, we caught liquidity up here, we stopped out people that were trying to play this double top short, a load of momentum traders got long. This then really completely pulled the rug out of everybody, including myself and including a lot of, very sort of experienced people in the space. So yeah, just kind of bear that in mind. This was not very clean cut. And if we look at the lows as well, if we go back here, we can actually see that Bitcoin, that the low of the candle from June was 17,500. Then off the FTX dump, we actually dumped below that. So we dumped down a further 2,000. And at this point, people were saying, look, we're consolidating at the lows. We're going to see 12K. We're going to see 10K. And that never happened. So in my head, I'm just thinking to myself, okay, a lot of people are calling for, 48K. Is the chance that we just go up to 48K and dump, is that really the most likely thing? Or actually, are we going to see Bitcoin get above 50K, start to consolidate, or maybe even close a weekly candle or something above that level? Everybody starts to say, that's it. The bearish case is invalidated. This time is different. We're going to see new all-time highs before the halving even happens. ETFs about to launch, etc., rate cuts. And then do we actually see Bitcoin go on its correction? And I think that is probably my preferred scenario, just based on what I know that this market tends to do. The other thing is, we might come up to say 46, 47K, a little bit shy of the 48. Everyone starts thinking, I'm going to take my profits at 48K, 50K, and then they can get front run. And obviously we come down from there. Obviously, in terms of like a weekly level, that would be around the 47 mark, a pretty good area of resistance. And it means that a lot of people, again, will probably get caught a little bit off guard if that were to happen. So personally, I'm expecting one more leg up to, let's call it around sort of 47, 48K, and potentially a few thousand higher. And then I do think that we will get some sort of correction. Corrections are inevitable. And a lot of the time you do need to bear in mind and remember that the majority of the time markets do trade sideways. So, I mean, look at the past year. Between March until October, so pretty much 9 months of the last year, we were in this sideways range, this sideways consolidation. We've seen similar here as well in the bear market, where we're in sideways consolidation. Obviously, the bull market's a little bit different. When we actually go post-halving, we tend to see like massive trending moves in Bitcoin and cryptos. But my point is that I think we could go into a sideways consolidation for a few months. So I think a high will be established. I think we will pull back, and then I think we will actually go sideways for a bit. What this does, it obviously resets all of the momentum. The volatility comes down in the market. Obviously, you need periods of low volatility to balance out the high volatility. No market can be sort of highly volatile all the time, even though crypto, you know, may convince us otherwise a lot of the time. If we just go back to obviously the last time that Bitcoin went through a halving, it was in 2020. Obviously, for the vast majority of that year, we were actually going sideways. And that's obviously this period here until the end of 2020 and the fourth quarter is where we really started to accelerate and take off. So, you know, I'm not putting that past us that we might have some sort of final push up, a sell off, and then some sort of sideways consolidation. And that might sort of come between, say, the mid 30s and sort of high 40s. I mean, if we were to get up to, you know, probably the most obvious target around about 48, a pullback down to the mid 30s, call it sort of 35k, is about a 25% pullback. I think that is well within expectation and fully reasonable for Bitcoin at this period of the cycle. Definitely in bull markets, it can correct 25-30% on many occasions throughout the bull run. So we could be in for our first 20-25% correction. I mean, if we only did 20%, it would come down to 38. That would obviously also close the CME gap. If we actually did push a little bit higher, then it might make sense for us to, you know, correct a little bit further. If we got up to 32, maybe we actually see a bit more closer to, say, a 30% pullback. So, you know, some sort of trading range like that over the course of a few months, just to kind of build out our support and resistance, for everything to cool down, for leverage to reset, for bulls to get frustrated, bears to get frustrated, might actually be what we see Bitcoin do. And then I think after that would put us in a really strong position when we did finally break out of whatever level we set as our, you know, sort of short-term top, to then go on and ascend and take out the all-time highs. And I would also say that Bitcoin likes to frustrate people before making really big moves. So we saw it in the last bull market as well, right at the early stage of the bull market when Bitcoin was chopping around. We saw NASDAQ racing to all-time highs, S&P racing to all-time highs, money printing, and people were looking at Bitcoin and saying, why is it not moving? Like, is there something wrong with it? Is it flawed? Is Bitcoin's time over? Has it failed? There were even, back in 2020, there were people talking about Bitcoin in mid 2020, even late 2020 in Q3, saying Bitcoin has failed. And if we just look sort of September 2020, if we just make a comparison and look at what the NASDAQ was doing, this was the NASDAQ. The NASDAQ had recovered off its COVID lows and was literally going absolutely mental, absolutely parabolic, small pullback. I mean, we're talking about a market that was literally up 30%, and these are stocks as well from its all-time high pre-COVID dump. And Bitcoin, well, Bitcoin was just going sideways. Bitcoin barely got back to the level it was pre-COVID, and was pretty much at the same level even in October, September, October of that year, bearing in mind the halving had just taken place as well, and the Fed were printing money like no tomorrow. So I'm just trying to manage everybody's expectations in that there might be a bit of a delay in Bitcoin making that parabolic move up, but when it does, it will not look back, and we will see something absolutely amazing happen. And I think everybody just has to have a little bit of patience for that to happen. Obviously, if Bitcoin is you know, pulling back, consolidating, going sideways, it's likely that altcoins will also sort of pull back. Probably if Bitcoin pulls back 25%, altcoins will probably pull back about 50%. So, you know, I'm not here saying take profits on altcoins. I'm just saying if you want to get a good entry into the market, into either Bitcoin or into altcoins, then you might be better waiting to see what happens over the next few months and waiting for the market to cool down a bit. I'm not saying that the market is necessarily that overheated right now. I'm just saying history has told us that even during bull markets, Bitcoin does experience 25-30% corrections. And also Bitcoin does like to go through long periods of sideways accumulation until seeing really big moves. And I still think the biggest move of this bull run is yet to come. and it will happen in the later stages of next year. So that was what I wanted to say on Bitcoin. We can also take a quick look at some correlated markets. We've got the dollar coming down. It looks like it wants to go lower here and potentially get back down to this 100 level. Anywhere down here is going to be very, very bullish for risk assets. The Fed are talking about cuts now. That's going to put pressure on the DXY and the dollar. So potentially, if we do come down to these levels, look for how price responds. Maybe a move down to, say, for example, the 100.7 or whatever this level is down here, and some sort of bounce in the dollar might be met by a pullback in stocks and also crypto. And we're looking at the weekly here, so potentially that could be a couple of weeks away, which would line up with maybe a bit of a pullback for crypto stocks in January. So that's something that I'm looking at. But I think as long as the dollar is coming down, that's going to give a tailwind to Bitcoin and also the stock market. And speaking of the stock market, I mean, the NASDAQ has just been absolutely tremendous, on an absolute tear, currently sat at all-time highs, and it looks like a little bit of a cup and handle here, breaking out of this bear flag. I do fully expect the NASDAQ to keep going, really. I don't see any reason to be bearish whatsoever right now on the stock market. And we will also just touch upon Ethereum as well, because Ethereum has been lagging Bitcoin. I still expect Ethereum to play catch up. For me, it's one of the most bullish narratives out there right now is Ethereum. It's most likely going to get an ETF following Bitcoin's ETF very shortly. It's the most built upon blockchain out there. It has the most developers. It has the most users with all its layer twos. For me, it's an absolute sleeping giant. And I would just say, I know all of the attention right now is on Bitcoin and things like Solana and things like Avalanche due to their incredible price appreciation. But just remember, that capital and that hype tends to rotate. So it's very, very likely that we will see some sort of rotation at some point into Ethereum, and for Ethereum really to explode. And also there's quite a lot of new Ethereum L2s that are likely to be doing airdrops early next year too, which I think will obviously add to the hype, add to the attention that Ethereum starts to get. And obviously with the Bitcoin ETF out of the way, the Ethereum ETF then becomes the narrative. And I can easily see Ethereum heading up to around this sort of 3,200 to 3,500 level at some point. And that would just be catching up where Bitcoin is currently at. So I do think that Ethereum move will happen at some point. That's one I've got my eye on, and I do think Ethereum will likely outperform Bitcoin over 2024. And I will just very, very quickly touch upon Solana. Solana, great momentum. It's obviously come above this low from the bear market, and it now looks like it wants to keep on going. And I think it could go as high as 137 next year. And that's before the real bull run even gets going. There seems to be absolutely no stopping it right now, no holding back. But obviously, if we do continue to see some momentum over the next few weeks, then the next target is really around $100. And obviously, we've got this 382 fib at 106.7, which would be the target. I'm not saying we're going to get there right away, but Solana looking really strong. And the other one I wanted to mention was AVAX. So whilst we see Solana has come up to this low point in its bear market, and so if we just look here, we can kind of see this was the low from sort of February, March 2022. If we look at Avalanche's low from around about the same time period, we can see that its lows are around the sort of 60 to 70 zone, and Avalanche is still well under that. So I do think Avalanche could play a bit of catch up to Solana too, and for that reason, I'm still liking Avalanche a lot. And really, yeah, I think I'll probably wrap it up there. What I do want to say is that if you have been watching the channel for a few weeks or a few months, and if you are subscribed, thank you very, very much for your support. Thank you for subscribing and following these videos. I just want to say, obviously, the content over the last few months, I've been struggling a little bit with time. I've been focusing mainly on Bitcoin because Bitcoin is the leader and the whole cryptocurrency market follows Bitcoin's lead. So if you broadly know where Bitcoin is going, you have a good understanding of where whatever altcoin that you're investing in or trading in is going to go as well. Okay, Bitcoin go up, altcoin go up, Bitcoin down, altcoins down. It tends to be the way things work. Obviously, occasionally there's exceptions to that, but not all the time. So what I would like to do going forward, going into the new year, is started to do more things around the altcoins. Obviously, I've come out with my bull run portfolio video. So if you haven't seen that already, please go and watch that, because it gives you a great idea of those projects and altcoins that I'm bullish on for the next bull run. Things for you to go and look at, maybe do some more research into. But I'm going to be coming out with more dedicated videos around altcoins, around picks, looking at things like mid caps, even looking at low caps, things that are not necessarily in my altcoin portfolio because they're further along the risk curve. So I'm not necessarily wanting to just sort of buy and hold them for the entirety of the bull market, but they are altcoins that I think have a very, very high ceiling that could do some very, very big multiples. And I want to be sharing more content around these. So for those of you that are sort of more active and more into crypto, that have more time to go and research these smaller cap tokens, potentially these are things that you'd want to add to a portfolio where you're looking to build one, say, for example, within a specific theme. For example, if you're really into gaming, you've got a few sort of large cap gaming tokens, and then you want to go to the next level, the next layer, because typically we'll see a rotation where Bitcoin moves up, then we see the blue chips, the large caps, then mid caps, then low caps. And I think certainly as Bitcoin makes its way back, hopefully over the next year to its all-time highs and beyond, that's when the biggest gains are to be had, especially in the altcoin market, as obviously that capital then starts to rotate into more medium caps and low caps. So I'm going to leave it there. Thanks again for watching. Have a fantastic festive holiday season. Merry Christmas to you, wherever you are. And I will be back with more updates and alpha for you very soon and throughout the new year. So have a great day, everybody. Bye.